All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gilman Workshop. We are here to talk about the Gilman Scholarship, which is a scholarship for study abroad for Pell eligible students in particular for programs of any length as long as they bear credit. So really excited to talk to you about this one. This is one of my favorite awards and just really think it's a great program and excited that you all are interested. So we'll start off with introductions of myself and my co-presenter. So my name is Heidi Bretz. I use she, her pronouns, and I am one of the National Fellowships Coordinators here at the University of South Carolina. And my job is to help you identify and apply for awards that can help you do cool things, specifically international cool things, like the Gilman Award. If you've heard of Fulbright, if you've heard of the Critical Language Scholarship, I can help you figure out which one might be your best fit and then apply for funding to do things like study abroad, study languages, go to graduate school, practice policy making, you name it, there's probably a fellowship for it. I was actually talking to a student yesterday who wants to be an actuary, which I didn't even know what that was. And apparently there are a couple of actuary fellowships. They work in insurance and risk management. So if you can dream it, there's probably a fellowship for it. So happy to talk with you more about this particular award today. But I will let my colleague Marcy introduce herself and her role in this presentation.
Thanks, Heidi. So I am Marcy Height, she, her pronouns. I am the Assistant Director for Advising and Programming in the Education Abroad Office. So Heidi will find you the money and I will find you the program. We service a lot of different countries and I'll talk about some of those options that you have today. But she'll help you with the money part. I'll help you find the program.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Awesome. So we're going to start off with an icebreaker for you all. So, and again, this is just the overview of the agenda. We're going to have the icebreaker. We'll talk about study abroad, Gilman and other fellowships, student voices, a little bit about the Gilman essays, and then your next steps. So in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, can you tell me if I gave you a free plane ticket today, free plane ticket, free accommodations, anywhere in the world, where would you go and why? Free ticket anywhere you want to go. Personally, I've been kind of wanting to go to Paris again. I went when I was in high school, and so it's been a while, but interested in going back. I bet fall would be a beautiful time. Either that or maybe Ecuador. Anyone else? Marcy, where would you go?
Well, in the spring, in April, I should be going to Scandinavia. So I'll say that's my next on my list.
Very nice. Yeah, I haven't actually been up that way, so very, very cool.
I have.
Hopefully, you said in spring, right?
Yes, it should be in April. So I'll be here to approve all those Gilman applications.
Okay, there you go. I was more concerned about the weather. In April, it might still be snowing.
No, I know.
All right. Ooh, and we've got Egypt or Korea. Go to Spain. Very nice. Yeah. So the great thing is that with Gilman, you can go a lot of these places. You said either Korea, North Korea is off the list. So hopefully South Korea, you meant by that. But in a lot of places are eligible for the Gilman Scholarship. But I will talk about that in a minute. First, before you can get money, let's figure out where you might want to go and what you might want to do. So I'm going to let Marcy talk a little bit about study abroad. The Netherlands also a good choice. Marcy?
I agree, Netherlands a good choice. So I'll move into it, but I love seeing the places you guys are interested in. The good news is nobody has mentioned something that we have not gone to yet. So that's all good. We should have a program that's a good fit for you. So I'll go through briefly kind of the education abroad program models that our office has to show you there's a good fit for everybody. So for those of you interested in faculty-led programs that are a little bit shorter in length, we have our global classrooms. These are 1 to 3 weeks. They may be over the winter session, spring break, Maymester, summer. You're going to be with other USC students under a USC faculty member. In-state tuition over those Maymester and summer terms. However, since the winter session and spring break tuition is rolled into your full-time semester tuition, if you're an out-of-state student, I'm sorry, it'll stay out of state. But if you are looking for that in-state rate, go over the Maymester and summer, it'll kick in then. The offerings do vary year to year. We have usually between 50 to 60 global classrooms each summer or each academic year. They range in topics. Usually College of Arts and Sciences has some. Darla Moore School of Business has a lot. Engineering has some. You can do sustainability. So you really have a lot of flexibility in the courses that are offered, all for USC credit. So you don't have to worry about hitting any transfer credit maximums if you came in with a lot of AP, or if you want to do an additional longer term study abroad later. Global USC is essentially the same thing as our global classrooms. The difference is they are larger. There's 3 to 5 USC faculty, 3 to 5 courses. You can sometimes take 2, sometimes 3, though I would say 3 classes in 3 weeks is a lot. So we don't actively encourage that, but 1 to 2 courses is a good amount, winter session or Maymester. And then these are renewed annually. So we have Costa Rica, which focuses on public health, Galapagos, which is sustainability, and then Peru this winter term, we're going to have our history and culture global USC running. And another type that we have are global partners. So these are our US-based organizations that offer programming for US study abroad students. You can think of it a little bit like going abroad with like a travel agent, where you have someone on site organizing like group activities for you, helping in the pre-departure process, can be an extra set of like eyes on like applications, and can be there to help kind of guide you through the process. In addition to the staff that we have here at USC, they'll have on the ground staff abroad. These are available over the semester, the summer, full academic year. The program's offerings do vary quite a bit. They do go to locations all over the world. In total, we have about 85 countries that you can go to. You may live in a shared apartment, host family, others may live with other students, international students, local students. You might take courses at a academic center, or you might take courses at a local university. All of these programs are going to have availability to take coursework in English. So don't worry if you do not know another language. However, if you do know a foreign language, Heidi can talk about some extra money you can get. Students, you're going to be paying your program fee to the global partner. That's going to cover your tuition, your room and board. While you are doing that, you are not paying tuition to USC for that term you are abroad. Sometimes that means the program's a little bit higher than the cost of what you might expect to pay for like a semester here at USC. In some cases, though, it's even less. So our global partners, we have some great program options. If anybody's interested in Thailand, I can get you there for about $5,000 for tuition and housing, which is about the same award as the Gilman amount. So that's a good kind of number there. Yes, you'll go. Yes, I'd love to send you, Heidi. Varying GPA requirements, usually you just need at least a 2.5 for us to find you a semester length program. For our global exchanges, these are the more traditional type of study abroad experience, where we are swapping students with another university. So you're going to be an international student at a host university alongside their international student population, their local students. These are available during the academic year or a semester. Again, English taught courses, so don't worry about not knowing another language. These are considered our most competitive type of program because we are limited in the number of students we can send, because we are doing it on a pretty much true swap with the other university. But we have plenty of options as long as you're a good candidate for an exchange. If your first choice fills up, we find you a secondary choice. That is not an issue. These are very independent minded. So people who kind of want to be adventurous and be on their own or feel comfortable traveling on their own, this is a good option for you. They're immersive and truly customizable. You will pay in-state tuition to USC while you are abroad, and then your room and board costs are paid locally. 3.0 minimum GPA for that program type. Global directs, very similar to the global exchanges and kind of how you're enrolling. Full academic year semester, a few of them do have summer options. The biggest difference is instead of paying your tuition portion to USC, that portion is going to be paid directly to the host institution at their international student rate. For a lot of those programs, it's very similar to what you would pay here as a USC student. In some cases, a little lower, some cases a little higher, but generally pretty similar. So like I mentioned before, we have about 85 countries that we go to. We offer over 2,000 programs. That is a very large number, so don't get caught up in trying to think you need to swim through all 2,000 on your own. This is just kind of to showcase that we have a lot of options because we have something that is a good match for you. With the education abroad process, so you might be thinking about the timeline for that and what you need to do next. So we recommend starting with our Education Abroad 101 Blackboard course. Over the winter break, you might see that course change a little bit in its format. So just look for step 1 on our website and you'll be good to go. After that, you will research where you want to go, get an advising appointment. We have peer advisors who can answer quick questions, 15-minute drop-ins, that sort of thing, or you can meet one-on-one with one of us on the advising team, and we'll go over a very personalized kind of list of programs that are a good fit for you and really get into like the nitty-gritty details of what it will mean for you to go abroad. You're going to apply to the program that best fits your needs. You'll find scholarships and grants in addition to the ones that Heidi is going to talk about, and then you will prepare to take off.
All right. Thank you so much. Any questions from Marcy? Feel free to throw them in the chat or unmute yourself. All right, wonderful. Well, so Marcy has told you the what, and I'll tell you more about the funding, the how of getting to study abroad with Gilman potentially. So first off, let's start with big picture and define what is a national fellowship. Whether you knew it or not coming into this meeting, Gilman is a national fellowship. So what does that mean? Well, national means that folks from all over the US can apply for this fellowship that you're applying for. It's an opportunity, it's funding to do specific things in specific places or to do a specific type of activity. And so it's national because it comes from outside USC. The funding sources are from places like the Department of State, like Gilman, Department of Defense, maybe some different charitable foundations, other institutions. These pots of money are from outside USC. So that's what I mean by when we say national. When we say competitive, that can be a term that can be a little bit daunting. When we think about competitiveness, it's kind of like seeing those 2,000 different study abroad programs. They're not all for you. They're not all going to be the right fit. So really, when we talk about competitiveness, we're talking about identifying the opportunities where you are the absolute best fit. Like it feels like a good opportunity for you. For example, me, I probably wouldn't be very good if I applied to the SMART program that helps folks in science, math, and engineering. I'm a humanities person. I'm probably not going to be a very good fit for that award. So we'll help you as a team. We have 5 fellowship advisors in our office, and we can help you identify which fellowships are going to be best fit for you. For today, we're talking about Gilman as the National Fellowship, which provides you funding and an opportunity to travel abroad on credit-bearing programs of any length. One really important thing about Gilman to note, so those of you who are asking a little bit about timelines, deadlines, Gilman wants you to basically take your best guess at what program you're going to be doing. So they know that you're applying for funding in advance of your program. And in fact, this cycle, you can apply for funding all the way up to a program start of October 31st of 2024. So if you're really planning ahead, you want to be abroad next fall, you haven't applied for your program yet, you think you know where you want to go, but you're not quite sure, that is perfectly fine. Gilman wants you to make your best guess towards what your plans will be. And if those shift and you've been awarded a Gilman, they're really, really great about adapting with you, and they will likely like help you find out or help you shift that award to that new place because they've awarded you as a person, not your location. So really good to note. And also the advantage of all you early birds who are thinking of applying in fall of 2024 or even beyond that is that if you plan ahead, there are actually 2 Gilman deadlines a year. And so what that means is that if you apply in October, so this coming cycle, and you aren't awarded, you can apply again in March and potentially be awarded there if you're going abroad for summer or fall. So it's a great idea to start planning. So what does Gilman provide? So Gilman provides up to $5,000 for Pell eligible students to study abroad. So you need to have Pell somewhere on your financial aid award, either for this current semester or for the semester that you'll be abroad. Gilman, what they're really looking for is credit bearing programs, but they can be of any length. So if you are going on a spring break program, if you're going for a full year, Gilman wants to support you as long as you're earning academic credit towards that program. And I know Marcy had mentioned that you don't need to know a foreign language, but if you do or are wanting to study another language, Gilman actually offers additional funding for that. So they offer, on top of that, up to $5,000. You can get up to another $3,000 if you're studying what they call a critical need language. So a critical need language is a language that has been identified by the US government as being really important to US interests, national security. And so they have identified basically non-Western European languages. So if you're taking Arabic, if you're going to Korea and you want to study Korean while you're there, or Turkish or Urdu, then you can apply. It's like an additional, like maybe 200-word essay. So if you are studying any of these languages, please do yourself a favor, apply for that award. You're going to get more money, and literally the essay is so short, like you'll be sad if you don't. So it gives you up to an additional $3,000 in funding for language study alongside your study abroad. And then brand new this year, very exciting, they're actually offering a STEM supplemental award. So if you're a STEM major, you want to maybe do some research while you're abroad, they offer up to an additional $1,000 to help you pay for lab fees or do STEM related research, internships, that sort of thing abroad. And I know Marcy can probably help you identify opportunities where that could be part of your time abroad. So if you're interested, definitely let her know, let us know. Again, there is an additional essay, but that's 1,000 characters, not 1,000 words. Very important to note. Gilman measures in characters, so don't let that 1,000 scare you away. So not only do you get funding towards your study abroad, you also get benefits as a Gilman alumni. So if you have ever thought about working for the government, Gilman is a really great scholarship to get because it gives you what they call non-competitive eligibility, which basically just means that you have an edge, you have a little bit of an advantage when you're applying for government jobs for a certain amount of time. So if you want to work in, I don't know, the Department of State or the CDC or the Department of Defense or the CIA, this will give you a special hiring consideration and make it easier for you to get your first job in the federal government. So really great benefit if you want to use it for this particular award. There's no requirement for you to work with the federal government, but that is an option if you choose. You'll also have access to the Gilman Scholar Network, Gilman alumni events. They've been doing some really cool webinars about different topics. They've had a couple of groups of alumni actually travel to different locations to look at like refugee and immigration issues and other topics. So they do a lot of things with the alumni community, which is a really great part of Gilman. And of course, seminars and networking opportunities. Sometimes they'll even host job fairs or talk about how to get a job in a certain area or discipline. So definitely a great perk of being a Gilman is you're not just a Gilman for one semester, you're a Gilman for life. So I mentioned Pell eligibility. That's probably one of the two key requirements that for you to be eligible for the Gilman Scholarship. So you do have to be a US citizen or national at the time of application. If that doesn't apply for you, Gilman might not be the right fit, but there are other awards that do have eligibility requirements that don't include citizenship or permanent residency. So come talk to us if you are looking for scholarships that are open to non-residents and non-citizens. You have to be an undergraduate student. You do have to be eligible and receiving a federal Pell Grant, or at least eligible to receive a federal Pell Grant, again, at the time of the application or the time that you will be on your program. It does have to be a credit-bearing program. So if you find a really cool opportunity, but there's no academic credit attached, great for you. We still want you to do it, but Gilman's not going to be the right fit award for you. So definitely make sure that you're keeping that in mind. The length, again, it doesn't have a length requirement. When we were talking about the different countries to travel to, they do want to make sure that the folks that are traveling on their dime are going to places that are relatively secure. And so with that, they approve countries that are a level 1 or level 2 travel advisory. If it's a level 3 or above, you may not be able to travel there. That's kind of most of the places you would want to go are going to be level 1 or 2. Some are level 3, and we can show you where to look for that information as you're kind of considering your study abroad location. And then again, no minimum length requirement. So what are your steps? So if you are just starting off, go ahead and meet with Education Abroad, get to know their programs, see what might be the right fit for you, narrow it down to a few locations. And then meet with us, National Fellowships Advisors. You can meet with myself. You can meet with my colleague, Val Weingart. I think my colleague, Chastity Graham, is in the room. She does STEM awards. Val does first and second year awards. I do international awards. So one of us would probably be the best fit for you to talk to about this particular award. Again, you can apply for Gilman before you know exactly where you're going for study abroad. So feel free to start that process early. And you do want to start early. That's probably the biggest piece of feedback that I hear from students and from people who have done these different awards is start early, do yourself a favor. Don't put stress on yourself that doesn't need to be there. Go ahead and start this process of thinking and reflecting and really identifying your goals and where you might want to go with Gilman. And then get excited. Your life is about to change in the best way possible. Study abroad is a great experience. It's a growth experience. It's not always the most comfortable. You may face challenges, but I mean, that's how we grow. Just like it can coming to college, like you have amazing experiences, and then sometimes you trip and fall in the horseshoe, a little bit of both. Okay, so in addition to Gilman, which we're talking a lot about, there are other funding opportunities. Like Marcy said, through the Education Abroad Office, they have a number of USC specific opportunities. And then there are additional national fellowships that we can help you apply for, depending on where you're trying to go. There's some that are based in kind of East Asia. There are some that are like Italian specific, some that are specific to Scandinavia. Like it just kind of depends where you want to go. And if you are in a boat where you are maybe on the edge of Pell eligibility, or maybe you kind of wandered in here and you're not Pell eligible, the Fund for Education Abroad is another need-based scholarship, but it's not tied specifically to Pell eligibility. And I would say apply for basically as many as you qualify for. A lot of times you can combine awards. It depends on the award, but a lot of times you can. Freeman Asia and Gilman, for example, work really well together. And then for those of you who are interested in critical need languages, so those ones that I threw up there, basically anything but French, German, Spanish, or Italian, basically anything but that, the Gilman or the Boren Awards and the Critical Language Scholarship are great ones to look into. And again, Boren and Gilman can be combined. So those are for a little bit longer study abroad periods. So what does this application look like? We keep talking about it. So basically, we're going to talk about step 1. Don't worry about step 2. Marcy's got you there. So step 1 is your part. This is what you will need to submit for consideration to Gilman. So you will need some information about your study abroad program. Even if you haven't been accepted to a program yet, kind of pick your best choice one and write your application towards that. Like I said, Gilman is pretty flexible when it comes to participants changing programs. We've had Gilman recipients who had to change like 2 or 3 times because they were trying to go one place and they couldn't get in because of the pandemic. So they ended up going to a completely other continent. Like they're very flexible. So have a program in mind, write towards that program. And where are you going to write towards that program? In your essays. There are 3 essays that you'll fill out. Again, these are relatively short, about a page, maybe half a page each. So it will take some time to come up with those essays, but you have our office, you have the writing center, you can use things like Grammarly to help support you with the writing process. And really, what we can do in our office is help you to think through how you're going to tell your story in a way that's authentic to you, that shows like why you would be a really good Gilman applicant, and we'll help you kind of put that together. So essays are about your purpose for going abroad, just a general statement of purpose. A an essay about building mutual understanding, basically building relationships with folks in your host location, and then a follow-on project. So Gilman does want you to do something with your learning. So what they've done is they require a follow-on project when you get back, is what they call it. And basically it's you sharing your experience. So how are you going to talk about study abroad and Gilman when you come back? That can be as simple as a presentation you put together. If you're doing the GLD, maybe you could even put that into your presentation and have that be your follow-on project. You can go back to your high school. We'll talk a little bit more, but there are lots of different pretty approachable ways that you can share your learning. And they just want to know how you're going to do that. Your unofficial transcript, and then to select your certifying advisors, which would be Marcy, and then a financial aid advisor. And I'll share a worksheet with you that tells you kind of who you can pick for those particular roles. And their role is, again, just to go in after you submit your application and say, yep, all this information looks good. Like, it's all accurate. Okay. So before we get too far into essays, I'm going to pause for questions. Anybody have questions at this point?
I have
All
a
right.
question.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
It says essay one required 7,000 characters. Does the characters include with space or without
Mhm.
space?
Yes, with space.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that 7,000 number isn't quite as scary as it looks, because it counts every space, every comma, every period, every letter. So again, it comes out to about up to, I think, 1,000 words. I'm not sure of the exact conversion, but basically not 7,000 words. They're not hoping to have you write like a 6-page paper or however long that is. But basically, what this statement of purpose is, this is the biggest essay that they ask you to write. And this is basically them getting to know you. For Gilman, they only see your written applications. They never actually get to talk with you. So you can treat this statement of purpose as a personal interview. So you sharing about what motivates you, how your experiences, your passions, your interests connect to the program that you've chosen, and how that is going to help you reach your goals. So that's really the argument you want to build, is like, why you, why this particular study abroad opportunity, and how is doing this going to help you towards whatever goal you're going for. So language proficiency, or if you are interested in international business, or if you want to like work abroad, or kind of whatever your goals are, just making sure that there's a connection. And then they do ask you to address a little bit meeting challenges. And that's because, again, as I said, study abroad, like you're going to have your days when you're like rushing the field, and you're going to have your games when you're, or your days when you're tripping on the horseshoe. So thinking about the realities of study abroad and how you might meet some of the challenges that you would face being in a completely new country. And you can draw on your experience even transitioning to college, if you've had other international travel experiences or local travel experiences, if you're like me and you came down from the Great White North of Michigan to the South, and sometimes you still don't understand quite what's going on, those are the types of things that you can talk about, and talk about your strategies for how you're going to engage when things get a little tough. And again, we can help you kind of talk through and think through some of these options and figure out how you want to tell your story. So that's essay number one. Essay number two is where it can get a little bit confusing. I don't know if anyone's heard the term citizen ambassador, but that's kind of what they're looking for you to talk about. So basically, what that means is, what does it mean to you to be a US citizen abroad? What are the parts of your US culture that you want to share? There are 10 of us in this room. There are 10 different US cultures in this room. So what kinds of things do you want to share with your host community? How are you going to represent your slice of America? How will you seek opportunities to be culturally engaged? Are you staying with a host family? Are you in classes with local students? Are you joining clubs? Are you playing football? Like, what are you doing? So kind of thinking about ways that you are seeking opportunities to be culturally engaged and have those meaningful interactions. It's all about building those relationships and building mutual understanding. And that's pretty common to any Department of State award. They're really looking for that relationship building aspect. So basically, how are you going to make friends? What are you going to do for fun? That's what this essay is. And also, what are you going to do if someone comes up to you and asks you something about America as a whole? And then finally, number 3 is the Community Impact Project. Like I said, that's the follow-on service project. So again, this term citizen diplomat, citizen ambassador, basically, you can talk about what you did while you were abroad, what relationships you built, what you learned. And then how will you give back by inspiring others to study abroad? And this can be on your campus, in your home community. So you can kind of be a little bit creative with this, but you don't have to like completely redesign the wheel or come up with something completely unique in order to give a really strong follow-on project. And what they're really looking for in this essay is a plan of action. So if you are going to come back and share your story, you can say, oh, I'm going to come back and I'm going to volunteer with the National Fellowships team to be a fellowship peer mentor and share my experience with folks who are thinking about studying abroad and specifically applying for Gilman. And I'll help them understand what the process was like and also what the experience was that I had. Perfect, done, check. So it can be as simple as that. You have our office, you can come plug and play. Or if you want to like go back to your high school, maybe you took a French class or something and you want to go back and talk to them about, oh, I went to France and had an amazing time in Lyon and I did it through Gilman. Like those are the types of things they're looking for. And they're just looking for a little bit of detail to show that you've thought through who your audience is going to be, who you need to contact or collaborate with, and like that you just thought about the logistics of it. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Okay. And then if you are studying one of those critical need languages, there is going to be that additional essay, which basically has you identify, is this a critical need language? So again, not English, Spanish, French, German, or Italian. Most other ones, or Latin, I guess, wouldn't be either. But is it predominantly spoken in the country you're going to or widely spoken? How does that relate to your academic and career goals? And what are your motivations for improving your language proficiency? Do you have a really like personal interest? Is it a heritage language maybe that you're trying to speak? Are you trying to break into the business sector in Mandarin speaking world and you need to learn Mandarin? You can share what your goals are there. And then of course, I don't think I added it, but if you are doing the STEM supplement, there's a 5th essay there as well. And so what are they looking for? So they actually at the Gilman do a really, really great job of telling you exactly what they want and exactly what you should write about. So as long as you are answering the questions that are being asked to you, which honestly, like in fellowships, that can be hard sometimes to write and actually answer the question that's being asked. But if you do that and you look at these different selection criteria and you align well with them, that's a really good step towards making your application more competitive. It is worthy of note that the people who are reading your application are going to be people like Marcy and me. You don't have to convince us that study abroad is a good thing. You don't have to convince us that like you want to go. Like we know we're very sold on study abroad. What you need to talk about is why you and why your particular program is a great fit and what's going to help you to reach your goals. So again, more about you. Study abroad in general, set aside, you don't need to spend much time at all on that. So what they want to know is the impact of the program and the destination on your academic and career trajectory. So again, if you're thinking of, I don't know, going into business in the Arabic speaking world, your choice of going to Egypt for a program, that's going to make a lot of sense. You just have to lay out that argument. The community impact abroad and upon students return home. How are you going to engage while you are abroad? How are you going to share that experience when you come back? Academic preparedness, and this is a little bit more general than just a GPA. There's actually not a standard GPA requirement because it can look different for everybody. So for this particular award, they're looking for evidence that you can be academically successful abroad. So they want to make sure that the kinds of classes you're taking, like that you've been successful in those kinds of classes in the past, that you have thought about study strategies or ways that you can prepare yourself for success abroad, because sometimes the classroom environments are different. But that's really what they're looking for, is that record of academic success that has prepared you for study abroad. Hopefully that makes sense. And then finally, diversity of background and experience. And they define diversity in like the widest possible sense. So thinking about your ethnic diversity, racial diversity, linguistic diversity, gender diversity, geographical diversity, you name it, there's like any type of diversity that you can think of. Gilman is looking for that, because really what the State Department wants as a whole is for the populations that are going abroad to mirror the populations that are here in the US. So the closer that they can get to that goal, the better. And so they're really looking for folks who have a diversity of experiences. And then if you are doing the critical need language, that you're committed to proficiency in that language. But don't take my word for it. We actually have a Gilman alum right among us in the room. So we have Blaze Murphy, who went abroad to Korea, right? Sorry, Blaze, I'm going to get it wrong.
Oh no, you're good. It was Cuba, actually.
Oh, Cuba. There we go. The other, not C, not K, not C. There we go. To Cuba. Yes, so to Cuba. So we have a real live Gilman applicant who is going to hopefully tell us a little bit about Blaze, you can tell us a little bit about your experience, what the process was like for you in applying, and maybe some tips you have for folks who are interested in either going abroad or applying for Gilman or both.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So my name's Blaze. I'm a sophomore this year. I was a freshman last year, and I kind of knew I wanted to do something different during the summer. So I decided maybe study abroad was in the books. So I found out about the fellowship office, and I was actually at the Gilman meeting last year, just like y'all are. So if you're a freshman, take it from someone who's gotten it. Don't be afraid. Go for it. But I got through that meeting, and I was kind of encouraged because I knew study abroad costed a lot, and Gilman seemed pretty accessible to me because I met all the requirements and such. So I decided to look for a study abroad program. Obviously, I decided with Cuba. I went through some interviews, and I found out in December that I was actually going to get the opportunity to go there. So with that, I knew I had to go for Gilman because I didn't have the funds to do that, and I basically planned out, my application, my essays, and such, and then I decided to write my application on spring break since it was already planned out, and it's relatively easy. You don't have to research very much for the application. It's more of a personal thing. So you definitely want to think it out though, because sometimes it can be hard to think about yourself in that professional kind of manner, I guess, and maybe your career related to your country. So for example, I'm studying supply chain and I was going to Cuba. Everybody knows Cuba has the embargo. So I basically use that as a way to look at the supply chain in a different manner. And that actually helped my Gilman essay. So I applied for Gilman in the March deadline, used my spring break to write it, sent it in. They got back to me relatively quickly, I think about a month, within a month. And then I was able to get the funding to go to Cuba, and they covered the whole trip. And on top of that, I got the money for the trip, obviously. I got to experience the trip, but I also got that non-competitive eligibility for the federal jobs. And the alumni network's actually pretty good too. So you can connect with other Gilman scholars and professionals, and you can build a little network there too across the whole country. So that's pretty good. But yeah, one thing I would suggest, definitely take advantage of the fellowship office. They're there to help you. Use all your resources you can because they can give you maybe a different perspective on your personal aspects that can be worded maybe better or emphasized better for the application. Like I said, plan your essays, definitely. Like I went from December to March, and it wasn't like intensive planning. It was just maybe thinking about myself in a different manner than I normally would, more professional instead of casual manner. Definitely be yourself. It's a personal essay, and I know a lot of times I have a tendency to like over exaggerate or make myself sound a little different for applications and such. Like I said, express your career interests and your personal interests, and honestly, don't be intimidated by the essays because I think my longest essay was 2 pages long, and the other two were only 1 page. But it's the content that matters, not the 7,000 characters that might scare you off. So, and with that, as long as you try your best and put in your best effort, I think you got a good shot at getting in.
Okay, Blaze. Any questions for Blaze that y'all want to throw in the chat or unmute yourselves for? And I will say, if you need some time to think of questions, Blaze, like I said, is one of our fellowship peer mentors and therefore is part of our coffee chat program. And that is where our office will actually pay for you two to go out and have coffee together or a drink of your choice, and just really chat and talk one-on-one about Blaze's experience, about the Gilman, about life, whatever kind of comes up within your conversation. I'll show you at the end of our presentation where to go to request that coffee chat. Any questions? All right, wonderful. Well, if you think of any, please throw them in the chat. Thank you so much, Blaze, for sharing your experience. And so with that, we're gonna do just a little bit of brainstorming here. So thinking about the Gilman, again, it's all about your goals and the connection between you, your program, and your country. So think about what are some of your goals that you have. Feel free to throw them in the chat or think about them privately, but what are some of your goals you have for your time here at USC, for your professional life, for your personal life? What are some of your goals? And so as you think of those goals, like, and you think of kind of the place you want to go. So if you are going to Egypt and then one of your goals is to learn Arabic, why'd you choose this program or country? Because it offers Arabic. If you are, for example, like Blaze going to Cuba, why would you go to Cuba? What would be the connection there? And Blaze made a really great connection between, oh, supply chain management, embargoes. I want to take a look at it for myself, thinking about those connections. And then when you think about how you'll engage with your host community, it helps to start by thinking, what are you already doing here at USC? Are you part of clubs? Are you part of organizations? Do you volunteer? Do you tutor folks? Like, what do you do outside of the classroom that helps you to connect with other people? And then do a little bit of research. So I know Blaise doesn't have to do a lot of research, but it is good to do a little bit of research on the program that you're planning to go to so that you can point to things like, oh, this particular institution has a really great public health program, and there's actually an opportunity for me to do an internship in a clinic. That's a very compelling reason for why you should go on the program. So think about those kind of engagements that you could have, and also new things that you might want to try. If you want to pick up a sport or a hobby or learn about, I don't know, traditional handicrafts in Estonia, which is, yeah, what I would like to do if I were in Estonia. So thinking about those types of things. And then also think about what parts of your culture are you eager to share? And if the thought of like, oh, what is my culture kind of comes up for you, think about like the values you have, the way that you interact with your family, the way you make friends, about your holidays, about what traditions are important to you. Basically, I found whenever there's like, if you've like been in conflict with anybody, like if anybody has roommates and you're like kind of having struggles over like, okay, what state does the house need to be in? What constitutes clean? That can be something that's a little bit of a cultural value, and you can kind of feel when those cultural values rub together sometimes. So thinking about kind of those things that you might bring and what parts of those you're eager to share. So like I'm from Michigan, I would want to talk about maybe like, since it's fall, thinking about like the apple cider and the apple farm culture that's up there, where you go to the cider mill and you get the fresh apples, and then you get your hot cider and your apple cinnamon donut and enjoy it while it's frosty outside. Like that's a very like specific thing for Michigan, because like I don't think we're getting that same experience down here in the South. But if you're from South Carolina, you can talk about like, I don't know, the Carolina barbecue sauce or something like that. So you can kind of think through things that are important to you. And then how will you spread the word when you get back? Are there organizations that you can talk to? Are you part of a fraternity, a sorority that you can come back and maybe give a presentation to, or do food night? I don't know why I'm thinking of food. I just ate lunch. But thinking about like, oh, I'm going to share the differences between like Carolina Gold barbecue sauce and Korean barbecue. Great. Barbecue is a universal food, and it's a great way to look at other cultures through the lens of barbecue. So thinking about these different things and how they connect for your particular program, your particular interests, and your particular goals. So with our last few minutes here, we're going to think about deadlines and timing. So as I may have mentioned in the chat, there are actually 2 deadlines per calendar year or academic year, whichever way you want to say it, 2 deadlines. So there's an October deadline, and then there is a March deadline. So right now we are recruiting for the October deadline, which is going to be October 5th of 2023. So you have probably about 3 weeks. I can't math today. Yeah, about 3 weeks to create your application. That's plenty of time, but you need to start thinking about it and getting started pretty soon so that you can dedicate that time for the reflection, because that's really what takes the most time for Gilman, is reflecting on your goals and choosing your program and tying those things together. So go ahead and get started on that thought process, and maybe even go ahead and start doing some brainstorming, some writing. I would say for the average Gilman application, probably the writing takes 5 to 6 hours total. So that's kind of what you're thinking about. So as you're planning, think about that. And that's for programs that start between December of 2023 and October of 2024. So if you're going abroad beyond that, so if you're going abroad next winter through next summer, then you would be looking toward the March 2024 deadline. So that's going to be in the first Thursday in March, and the application will open in mid-January. So what's really cool, again, about the Gilman is that if you time it right, you get 2 chances to apply. And so if you apply now for your summer 2024 program and you don't receive a Gilman, you still have time to apply again in March. Awesome. And you can apply as many times as you're eligible. You can only win once, but you can apply many times. And just another thing to note, these times here are in Pacific time. So it's 11:59 p.m. in California. So that does, in theory, give you a couple of extra hours, but do yourself a favor. Do not wait until that deadline. Submit a day or 2 early. Save yourself the headache of what happens with every fellowship, which is the application portal slows way down on the deadline. You don't want to risk your computer crashing or the power going out or anything like that, because that deadline moves for no one. So plan ahead, submit early, save yourself the stress. And so as you're kind of thinking about Gilman, so Gilman again is funding. So you apply for funding through Gilman. You apply for your program through Education Abroad. Marcy, did you have any comments on this particular slide on these deadlines and what students can start working on?
For the global exchanges, I highly recommend doing the May 1st priority deadline. But for a lot of them, the applications won't open up quite yet, but that does not stop you from being able to come and meet with our office now and go ahead and start doing the planning for those. That way you can apply right when it's open.
Wonderful. Yeah. So start researching, apply when it opens. And again, if you do like start your application and you're really thinking you're going to go to Egypt, and then 6 months from now, it turns out, oh, I'm actually going to Dubai instead, that's fine. Gilman is very flexible as long as your program is still credit bearing and to a level 1 or 2 country. So how do you get started? So explore your options with info, which is our searchable database. I'll show you where that is in just a second. Check out our workshops. You found your way here, but we will be having a number of different workshops throughout the semester. We also have recordings of previous workshops that you can see on our YouTube channel. Third, make an appointment via Navigate or Calendly. So for undergraduate awards, you'd come through Navigate. We're under involvement and engagement. Like I said, myself and my colleague Val are kind of the primary contacts for Gilman, but you can meet with any of our advisors to get started in the process. And then finally, complete your candidate profile. And what this is it's just a little bit of information from you that puts you in our database. And what that allows us to do is just keep up with you, keep in touch, know that you are interested. I promise, like, we're not going to spam you with a bunch of emails. We send one email a week. You can ignore it if you want. And then we also give you the choice to customize what kinds of opportunities you hear about. So that way we'll only reach out to you with opportunities that we think that you would be interested in. So that's a really great way to keep in touch with our office. So that is the conclusion. You can let us know what you thought. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook. I don't think we're on Twitter anymore, so maybe just Instagram. But with that, I'm going to exit out of the PowerPoint and show you a couple of websites. But as I do that, are there any questions? Or Blaze, do you have anything you'd like to add that maybe came up after your talk?
Not necessarily. Like I said, just use your resources and definitely reach out to the fellowship office. And if you have any other questions that you might think of after this, definitely, you know, start a coffee chat with me or one of the other fellowship peer mentors. Definitely.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. So this is our website, National Fellowships and Scholar Programs. So this is where, you can find all that information I was talking about under our National Fellowships tab. And if you go to Getting Started, you'll see those 4 steps, which are exploring the database, looking at the workshops, making an appointment, and this is where you will find your candidate profile, the link to complete your candidate profile there. So that's where you can get started, very nicely named webpage. And then this is our info database. So if Gilman maybe is not quite the one for you, or you want to see what else is out there, we have about 250 different opportunities in our database that you can look at for all academic areas, all types of experiences, and you can actually search and sort. So if you want to see, oh, what would be available for study abroad, then it will show you kind of all of the different things that you could potentially do. Some of them are for graduate students, some of them are for undergraduate students, some of them are specific areas, but you can get an idea of what kinds of opportunities are available there. And then if you want to talk to Blaze or another of our peer mentors, you can go to the Fellowship Peer Mentors page. And this is where you can actually see all of our peer mentors who are volunteering their time to talk with you about their experiences. So you can see there are quite a few Gilman recipients here who are happy to talk about their experiences applying for and going on a study abroad program with Gilman. So you can kind of look through these and see if there are folks that you might want to talk to and request a coffee chat to meet with an FPM, Fellowship Peer Mentor. So for Gilman specifically, if you go to gilmanscholarship.org, that's where you can go ahead and open your application. I would recommend going ahead and opening your application so you can take a look around, see what it looks like, what the system is like, and start on your application. I do recommend putting all of your essays in not the portal, so like writing them up in Word or Google or Pages or whatever you use beforehand, so that way you can save your work, you can make sure that you can save different drafts of your work so that you know kind of what you wrote in draft 1 and what you wrote in draft 3, because it's easy to lose track of things. But that will help you kind of stay on track. And the Gilman website is very, very, very helpful, but kind of like the 2000 education abroad programs, there's a lot of overwhelming information. So if you have a moment, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea or your favorite beverage and just spend a little time on the Gilman website. So it'll tell you about all these different types of funding that you can apply for. It will tell you what they're looking for, the application overview, eligibility, selection criteria, more on the essays, submission tips, deadlines, anything you could want. And then if you are feeling like you really need some extra secrets, then you can actually go to the advisor section, and sometimes in like the advisor FAQ or advisor resources, you can find even more details. And of course, you can open your application. And one other note, if anyone is a dependent of an active military member, so it can be a spouse or a parent, if you're a dependent of an active military member, please apply for the Gilman McCain Award. They are looking for folks to apply for this funding. They want to give it to you. And if you meet that criteria, please apply for this. It's virtually identical to Gilman, except for that it requires you to be a dependent of an active military member. But if you are eligible, apply for the Gilman McCain. All right. So I think that concludes the presentation portion of our time together. Are there other questions that I can answer for people, or if you have specific ideas that you want to talk through, I am happy to have that conversation.